We're at the corner today of Rue University and Rue Prince Arthur, and currently I'm looking at my old apartment building and my old apartment on Rue Prince Arthur. For 2 years my father and I lived in the ground floor unit immediately to the left of the main doors. The front of it has been renovated, now has some corrugated steel railing around the front of it. Apart from that, the building is as it was in my time. There's a lot of people here. People are going home. I'll just focus. There's the street sign. Prince Arthur and University. These are new buildings that weren't here when I initially moved from Lorne Avenue, which is the intersection down there, to my building there. This is at that time, it's been up for about 20 years now, or close to 20 years. This is the engineering building, the Trottier building. Behind it there's a biology building, and then there's this building here. I don't know what it is. The homosexual pervert, D. David, was very, very familiar with this intersection between 1994 and 1996, because it would drive up through University. There's a lot of rush hour traffic and people on the street. It would drive up this street and it would turn right at this intersection, and it would drive down this street, which is currently under construction. I think they're probably replacing the water mains. There are temporary water mains built along and across the sidewalk. And it would also drive up University, at the top of which is the Victoria Hospital. It's not really evident in the distance. It's been closed now for about a year. And it would spy on my father and I to see whether we were still resident here. If we were on the street or on the sidewalk and it was apprehensive that we might recognize it as it drove by, it would glance quickly to the right and then continue up the street. I'm going to walk down the street. I'm on my way to the shopping center. This is one of the two primary thoroughfares of the so-called McGill Ghetto. The other one being Rue Milton, where I was a couple of days ago. I might have to shut the camera off because I don't want to offend people. And that's another perspective of my building. We were renting it, and this building here, not that particular series of units, but further up, an old friend of my father lived in one of the top floor units in a very small one-bedroom condominium with his wife. He currently lives in NDG. And my father rented garage space from a Turkish guy who owned this building here at 621 Lorne Crescent in Prince Arthur. Nice guy. And this is Lorne Avenue. And I was on Lorne Avenue for about 9 months, until June. And there's my unit down the street, and I moved up and to the left. And David McNaught and his homosexual pervert sister would spy on my father and I during the interval in which we had our residence and domicile in this area. There's a lot more traffic along this street than I remember there being in the mid to late 90s. And basically students live here. The rents are now quite high. Some faculty live around here as well, in buildings such as that building up there on the left, as well as some of the more highly paid non-academic administrative staff. There's a very interesting building here that I'm going to discuss. I'll put it in the viewfinder. It's a very ornate building. It's 3 stories, and it's a very interesting building. This was the building that was owned by the elder brother of the individual from whom I rented my apartment up the street. I rented my apartment from an individual by the name of David Barsky, and this was his brother's house. His name was, it was Robert Barsky that I rented from, and this was his brother's house, David Benjamin, who was an interior and exterior designer. This is an interesting building for a number of reasons besides that, because in the 30s and 40s and 50s, possibly as late as the 1960s, this was the Soviet consulate in Montreal. And it's situated geospatially very strategically, because just up the street is McGill. And Dorothy Proctor, my biological female parents' homosexual partner, taught at McGill and was a Soviet spy. I was in this building a few times to talk to David Benjamin about various things, and I was trying to rent space in this building in 1999, but I was too late. It was all filled. But he wasn't even there. He'd actually sold it by 1999 to a Jewish guy named Fuller who lived in Vermont. But there were some tenants around, and I asked them about the place having been the former Soviet consulate, and they said, yes, that's true. And they said that at that time, I don't know about whether that's true at the present time, there was an old sauna and an old walk-in safe in the basement that had been left behind when the Soviets left. And the current Soviet or Russian embassy is over to the north and west at the top of Drummond, in a big blockhouse of a mansion. So I'm going to keep walking. I don't want to attract attention because people don't like being filmed. I'd like to refer to the fact that this is a very busy area in terms of both pedestrians and vehicular traffic. And whereas it's not apparent here because there's construction, and so a lot of the parking places have been interdicted by construction companies for their vehicles and their construction trailers. This area is a real maze for parked vehicles. If you look up the street, there's vehicles lining both sides of the street. And because there's so much parked vehicular traffic here, so many parked cars on both sides of the street, particularly the north-south streets, it's very easy to hide a car in this area. And therefore, if McNaughty David was here, spying on me, harassing me, stalking me, and even if I knew he was in the neighborhood somewhere, and I decided to look for him, it would be practically impossible for me to find his vehicle. There are simply too many cars parked on the street. Even if I knew the make and model of the automobile that he was driving, and he wouldn't use his own vehicle, he would use vehicles belonging to his elder sister's children. He used his niece Chrissy's car, which was a gold Ford Focus station wagon. Again, you see the number of automobiles on the street lining both sides of the street. Even if I knew the vehicle was here somewhere, I would have to walk up and down every single street, north and south and east and west. And if he was working in tandem with a third person, or a second person, or a second and a third person, it would be very difficult for me to find the car. And even if I did find the car, it would be problematic for me to accuse him of being in the area exclusively to stalk me and watch me, which is why he was in the area. Because, of course, as I stated earlier, there was an old lady who actually lived on Lorne Avenue, who was an old friend of his horrible mother, and he could basically say that he was only in the area to visit an old friend of his mother's. And there's also a lot of non-Quebec plates around here. I just walked by a car plate with Kansas license tags. And there's cars with tags here from all over the place, a lot of Ontario tags. So simply seeing an automobile with an Ontario tag wouldn't really mean anything. There's a lot of New York State tags, a lot of Vermont tags, tags from as far away as Texas, California. There's a car with New Jersey tags, a lot of New Jersey plates up here. And I've even seen, I think I even saw a plate, a car plated with an Alaska tag. There's a New Hampshire tag. So there are vehicles here from all over the place. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa. And so a car with non-Quebec tags wouldn't be out of place in this area. In fact, it would be the norm. There would be people here reading degrees as postdoctoral fellows, medical residents, people here for a year, 2 years reading a medical specialty. So it wouldn't really be anything very out of place to see a vehicle with these sorts of tags around here. Anyway, I'm going to close it up now and I'm going to go shopping. So I'll pick this up again later.